The Manciple's Tale, the Manciple's Prologue. Don't you all know where stands a little town, the one that people call Bob Up and Down? Near Blean Woods on the way to Canterbury, well, it was thereabouts our host turned merry. Don's in the mire, he said. Behold, King Log, for love of money, drag him from his bog. Will no one wake our friend asleep behind? A thief could rob him, and he wouldn't mind. Look at him napping, 40 winks, cock's bones. He'll tumble off his horse and hit the stones. Is that the London cook? The devil take him? Make him come here. He knows the fine will make him. Tell us a story, though I'm bound to say it won't be worth a barrel load of hay. Wake up, you cook, he said. God give you sorrow. What's up with you to sleep this sunny morrow? Had you had fleas all night, or else got drunk, or spent the night in toiling with a punk, and haven't got the strength to raise your head? The cook was drunk, pale drunk, no touch of red, and answered from a stupor, Bless my soul, I feel all heavy, haven't got control. I'd rather sleep, he said, I don't know why, than drink a gallon of wine, the best you buy, and all Cheapside. The Manciple said, Well, if I can make things easier for a spell for you and not offend the company, and if the host extends his courtesy to let me, I'll excuse you from your tale. Upon my word, your face is pretty pale, your eyes are somewhat dazed, and I can't help thinking. As for your breath, I'm bound to say it's stinking, which shows you indisposed for such a matter. Blunt words are best. I never was one to flatter. Look at him yawning there in the drunken sot. You'd think he'd meant to swallow us on the spot. Keep your mouth shut, man. Mercy, what a socket. The devil of hell's own hoof would hardly block it. Your cursed breath may well infect us all. You stinking swine, fie, how you gape and sprawl. Look out, take care, sir, he's a powerful man. I'd like to see a punch ball hit his pan. He's about ripe for trouble in that line. You'd think he had been drinking monkey wine. And that's when one goes plain with a straw. This speech annoyed the cook, who, turning raw, craned at the Manciple with so much force. For want of speech, he tumbled off his horse. And there he lay, for all the care they took. Fine cavalry performance for a cook. Pity he couldn't have held on by his ladle. They got him back at last into the cradle. After a deal of shoving to and fro to lift him up, it was a sorry show. Poor pallid soul, unwieldier than most. But to the Manciple, at last our host turned and remarked, Drink is in domination over thy fellow, but my soul's salvation. I'd think he'd only tell a lousy tale, whether it's wine or maybe new brewed ale. That's in him. He is talking through his nose, like someone with a cold, one would suppose, snuffling like that. I think he's going to spew. It's just about as much as he can do to keep his horse from falling in the ditch. And if his horse should fall, he'll follow, which gives us as much as we can do to strain and lift his drunken body up again. Carrying corpses would be just as grim. Tell on your tale. I've had enough of him. But Manciple, it wasn't very nice of you to scold the fellow for his vice. Another day those chickens you have loosed may very well likely all return to roost. I mean, he might allude to small amounts that could be criticized in your accounts as not quite honest if it came to proof. That might be awkward. I shall keep aloof. He easily could catch me in the snare, the other said. I'd rather buy the mare between his drunken legs than start a row. I mustn't make him angry how. The things I said were only meant in jest. Do you know what? I've something of the best here in this gourd, wine of the ripest grape. Just watch, and we shall have another jape. I'll give the cook some liquor, if I may. On pain of death, he shall not say me nay. And certainly to tell you what occurred, the cook, alas, drank freely from the gourd. What was the need? He'd had enough before, yet spluttered in the mug and drank some more, giving it back when he had had enough. The cook, who was delighted with the stuff, thanked him as best he could for some time after. Our host went off into a roar of laughter and said, Well, now I see how necessary it is to bring one's drink to keep us merry, for it can turn all rancor and dissension to love and harmony and stop contention. O Bacchus, thou, a blessing on thy name, thou so convertest earnest into game. Our thanks and worship to thy deity, my prayers are done, you get no more of me. Now, Manciple, on with your story, pray. Well, sir, he said, attend to what I say. The Manciple's Tale. When Phoebus had his dwelling here on earth, as ancient books report for what they're worth, he was a paladin of lustiest marrow, better than anyone with bow and arrow. He slew the serpent Python as it lay, coiled in the sunshine, and asleep one day, and many a noble and distinguished deed his bow performed for him, as you can read. And every instrument of minstrelsy he knew well how to play, while melody poured from his throat clear joy to hear him sing. Even Amphibian, famous Theban king, who built the town's defenses by his singing, was not so killed in setting echoes ringing. Added to that, he was the handsomest man that ever was heard of since the world began. Why should I make description of his features? He was the fairest living of earthly creatures, and therewithal he was of noblest bearing, filled with high honor, excellence, and daring. This Phoebus, flower in the cap of youth, renowned for bounty, chivalry, and truth, to please him and signalize his glory, and having vanquished Python, says my story, was wont to carry in his hand a bow. It happened that this Phoebus kept a crow lodged in a cage, and there for many a day he taught it speech, as one can teach a jay, and fostered it with care. This crow was white, white as a snowy swan. It could recite with perfect mimicry of tone and word what any man had uttered, and the bird would use this talent when it told a tale. In all the world there was no nightingale, moreover, with 100,000th part of what it had in merriness and art. Now in his house this Phoebus had a wife who lived with him. He loved her more than life, and night and day he gave his diligence to pleasing her and showing reverence. Except for this, if it's the truth they tell us, I wish to say he was extremely jealous. And wish to guard her, lest an exhibition be made of him, as those in his condition commonly do. In vain it can't succeed. A good wife who is pure in thought and deed should not be checked and spied on, that is plain, and truly it is labor all in vain. To check a wicked wife, it can't be done. It's imbecility, say I for one, for men to waste their labor checking wives, and so the ancients say who wrote their lives. But to my purpose, as I first began, this excellent Phoebus does the best he can to please her, thinking by his kind address and by his management and manliness that no one could extrude him from her graces, but God knows none can compass in such cases the power to restrain a thing which nature has naturally implanted in a creature. Take any bird and put it in a cage, and let your heart's intention then engage to foster it tenderly with food and drink, with every dainty mess that thought can think, and keep it clean as nearly as you may, caged in a cage of gold, however gay. The bird would rather 20,000-fold be in a forest which is rough and cold, feeding on worms and other wretched trash. It's on the watch and ready in a flash to escape out of the cage and to be gone. Freedom is what it sets its heart upon. Or take a cat, nourish it well with milk and tender meat, make it a couch of silk, but let it see a mouse along the wall, and it abandons milk and meat and all. Aye, every other dainty in the house, such is appetite to eat a mouse. You see, a natural lust is in possession, and appetite has banished its discretion. She-wolves are also of this baser kind. They choose the lowest wolf that they can find, the least in reputation to be mated, when the time comes to have their passions sated. These parallels are all produced to show the faithlessness of men. They do not go for women, not at all. The foul delight of men is wreaking lecherous appetite on lower things than wives, however fair, however true, however debonair. Flesh pines for the newfangled curse upon it, and nothing with the stamp of virtue on it will pleasure us for more than a short while. This Phoebus, who was innocent of guile, was well deceived for all his excellent features. She had a man, one of the lowest creatures, beneath him and of little reputation, worth nothing next a man of Phoebus' station. And more is the harm, it happens often so, and is a common source of human woe. It chanced his wife, when Phoebus was away, sent for her bully. Bully, did I say? Tut, tut, that was a very knavish speech. Your pardon, lords and ladies, I beseech. Wise Plato says, as those who can may read, words should be in accordance with the deed. It in tales told properly, a word should bring the sense of being cousin to the thing. I'm a blunt, boisterous man and tell you all, there is no real difference at all between a lady wife of high degree, dishonest of her body, if she be, and some poor wench, no difference but this, that if so be, they both should go amiss, that since the gentlewoman ranks above, so therefore will be called his lady love, whereas that other woman, being poor, will be referred to as his wench or whore. And as God knows, and so do you, dear brother, one name is just as low as is the other. Nor is there difference in my belief between a tyrant and an errant thief or outlaw. When the tyrant has no claim, they told great Alexander just the same, that just because a tyrant has the might, by force of arms, to murder men downright, and burn down house and home and leave all flat, they call the man a captain just for that. But since an outlaw with his little band cannot bring half such mischief on a land, or be the cause of so much harm and grief, he only earns the title of a thief. Well, I'm no scholar, and you shan't be vexed by hearing me enlarge on any text. Back to the tale I started, but more fully. When Phoebus's wife had notified her bully, they wrought their will in all its transient rage. Now the white crow, still hanging in its cage, beheld their work and never said a word. But once Lord Phoebus had returned, the bird unlocked its throat and saying, "Cuckoo, cuckoo." "What, bird?" said Phoebus. "That's no song for you. Were you not wont to sing your song so gaily that it rejoiced my heart to hear you daily? In tuneful voice, alas, what song is this?" "By God," it said, "I do not sing amiss." "Phoebus," it said, "in spite of all your worth, of all your beauty and your gentle birth, of all your minstrelsy and singing too, and all your watching, someone's hoodwinked you, has bleared your eyes, a man whose reputation, compared with yours, has little estimation. Not worth a gnat, indeed, upon my life. On your bed, I saw him plumb your wife." "What more do you want?" the crow in his behoof boldly informed him, giving serious proof of how his wife had done her lechery and had put shame on him and villainy. He swore he had seen it with his very eyes. Phoebus fell backward at the crow's replies. It seemed to him his sorrowful heart was breaking. Setting an arrow to his bow and taking aim, as he bent it in his rage to slay, he killed his wife. There's no more to say. And all his instruments of minstrelsy he broke in sorrow for it. Psaltery, lute, harp, guitar, and then he broke his bow and arrows, and he thus addressed the crow. "Traitor," he said, "it was thy scorpion tongue brought my confusion. Oh, my heart is wrung with grief. Why was I born? Would I were dead, oh dearest wife, oh gem of joy that shed so grave, so true light upon our love. Now thou art dead and pale of face, O dove, of innocence that I can swear. O speed of hand too rash to do so foul a deed. O mind confused, O thoughtless rage supervised, that smote a guiltless creature unadvised. O fainting trust, O prompting to suspect, where was your thought and wisdom to direct? O every man, beware how you are moved. Never believe but when what is strongly proved. Strike not too soon, ere you can reason why. Be soberly advised before you try to execute your justice and assuage suspicion by the acting of your rage. Alas, 1,000 in their hasty ire have been undone and brought into the mire. Oh, sorrow, I shall kill myself for grief. And to the crow he said, "O wicked thief, now I shall pay you for your lying tale. Once you sang sweetly like a nightingale, but now, false thief, your liquid song is done, and all your snowy feathers every one. Never in all your life to utter word. Vengeance shall fall upon you, traitor bird. You and your issue ever shall be black. Their sweetest music, like your own, shall crack, and you shall croak, foretelling storm and rain, in token that through you my wife was slain." And up he started at the crow, and tore the fair white feathers out that once it bore, and made it black, and took away its song and power of speech, and flung it forth headlong down to the devil, nor do I wish it back. And that's the reason why all crows are black. My lords, this is a parable conveying a moral. Pray take heed of what I'm saying. Never tell anyone in all your life that any other has enjoyed his wife, for he will hate you mortally, believe it. Solomon said, "The learned so receive it, teach every man how to refrain his tongue." But as I said, you won't find me among the scholars. But my mother long ago would say, "My son, reflect upon the crow. My son, you hold your tongue and hold your friends. A wicked tongue but serves the devil's ends. My son, the cross can save you from his net. My son, God in his endless goodness set, a wall about the tongue of teeth and lip. Take counsel ere you speak, let nothing slip. My son, too often by some babbling speech, many are blasted, so the scholars teach. A little wisely spoken, as a rule, will save a man from being cursed for fool. My son, restrain your tongue in self-denial on all occasions, save in making trial of prayer or speaking in the honor of God. The first of virtues, if you will kiss the rod, my son, is to restrain and guard your tongue. So teach your children this when they are young. My son, superfluous, unthinking speech, when to say less is still within your reach, and would suffice will harm you, I was taught. Much chatter is the food of sinful thought. Are you aware what hasty tongues can do? Just as a sword can cut an arm in two, or slice it into bits. Dear son, just so, a tongue can sever friendship at a blow. A chatterbox is hateful to the Lord. Here Solomon, the wise, is in accord with David in his Psalms, and Seneca too. My son, say nothing when a nod will do. Feign to be deaf if you should hear the chatter of any fool that broaches dangerous matter. And add this Flemish proverb to your diet. If you will learn it, little speech, much quiet. My son, if you have said no wicked word, you need not fear to have been overheard. Whereas a wicked word, I tell you plain, once said can never be recalled again. What's said is said and goes upon its way. Like it or not, repent it as you may. Here is a slave to any that has heard him tell a tale. He'll suffer for that word. My son, be cautious. Fashion nothing new by way of tidings, whether false or true. Wherever you may be, with high or low, refrain your tongue and think upon the crow.